Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Special Economic Zones. I'm your host, Ainsley Brown. In fact, it's our first episode for 2023, so happy New Year. To kick things off, we're going to talk about a few trends that I believe will impact zones greatly. These are not exclusively directed at zones, but I believe can have a very strong impact in 2023. And there are four of them. The first one is supply chain due diligence. The second one is the global corporate minimum income tax. The third one is cross-border adjustment mechanism for carbon emissions and trading. And then the fourth one is the WTO, that's World Trade Organization's moratorium on e-transactions. So I'll just go over each of those and just, get into how they impact zones or things to look out for in 2023. So supplier due diligence, particularly arising out of Europe, but there are other jurisdictions like the US and you'll tend to find that it's the larger economies that have these things where um, the traders are being put in a situation or a burden is being put on them, so to speak, of ensuring that their supply chains are free from human rights abuses, slavery, forced labor, and things of that nature. So the EU, and I know Germany specifically, is pressing ahead in 2023 in implementing this. And this is going to put um, not just a burden on the European traders, for example, trading with the rest of the world, but also their suppliers themselves, because they're going to be asking questions and you're going to be required to potentially make declarations or supply certain types of information that weren't supplied before. So it becomes very critical now when zones amount about 40% or so of global trade. So naturally, with something like this, it's going to impact. In addition, zones, while the reputation has improved over the years, tend to still have, there's a residual of this, a negative reputation in terms of labor practices, for example, and human rights abuses, because I guess you could say the bad old days, zones were used as places where, you export certain issues or certain problems and don't have to deal with them in your home country, poor labor practices or and the like. That's changed a lot over the years, um, but it's not gone away 100%. So it's something to watch out for. The second one, the global corporate minimum income tax. This is the charge being led by the OECD and the G20. But there is another avenue that has opened up, and that is with the United Nations. So that's a space to continue to watch. But the global minimum is going ahead. And importantly, in December 2022, the European Union passed something in mid 2022. They were supposed to pass it. However, it got blocked by Hungary. I guess negotiations have gone on, and the pathway is now clear for that to happen. Importantly, as the UNCTAD investment report pointed out, 2022 pointed out, it only takes a small number of the major economies to implement this, and we have a global system because the main I guess source countries of FDI are these countries, and most of them, a lot of them, are in the European Union. When you add up everything together, so them pressing ahead is quite significant. With the implementing the 15% global corporate minimum income tax, and I've spoken about this in other vlogs. Importantly, it's not that everybody must put in 15. It's that it allows a top-up mechanism. So if you are at 10% corporate income tax, the home country from which the foreign direct investment came from can top up by 5% to reach the 15. The European Union going ahead is quite significant and will impact zones. And zones are mentioned specifically, special economic zones are specifically mentioned. It doesn't matter what you call them, whether it's a free trade zone, a free zone, enterprise zone, whatever you call them. The fact that they have preferential tax that is different or lower, particularly in this case surrounding corporate income tax, makes them a special economic zone, and it's a designated area. Of course, it's always affixed to a specific geography within a country. So that's something to watch out for, to see how more and more countries come on board, and also how the European Union implements these things. There's also a lot of nuance with this global corporate minimum income tax, in that you have a threshold of 750 million euros. That anybody below that threshold, it doesn't apply to them. So there's going to be a lot of nuance there. And there are even more things to look out for, because there's exempt industries like shipping, for example. And there are other things that to look out for within it. So zone operators, zone policymakers, zone regulators all have to be on guard, or be cognizant of this, because it will impact. It's not a question of if, it will. The third one, and that is the carbon cross-border adjustment mechanism. Again, the European Union has put in this, and what it does, it's there again. It's not necessarily specifically towards zones, but what it does is it adjusts for, putting in a carbon tax. People say, if there's no global carbon tax, why should I be paying a carbon tax? And then other people are allowed to pollute, or people export the problem out of the country. So, okay, I'll just pick up the factory, close the factory, because I have to pay this tax and other fees and so forth, and relocate it to somewhere where I don't have to. So this mechanism is intended to adjust for that, uh, and ensure that, yeah, we are accounting for the source of carbon emissions, no matter where it's coming from. So it will adjust itself or attach itself at the border for things coming in to the European Union. And it doesn't apply to all industries. It applies to a few industries as of now, and the intent is to expand outwards. Steel, I believe, is one. Fertilizer, cements. These are heavy polluters of high carbon emissions, I should say, to be more precise. And, there are questions around whether or not it's WTO compliant. The Europeans have said, yes, it is. But others have said, no, it isn't. So that's a space to watch to see how that plays out. And then there are potentially others that could follow suit of the European Union in implementing something similar in 2023. And the last one is the WTO, World Trade Organization, moratorium on e-transaction. Now, back in the 90s, when the internet was very new, it wasn't quite sure exactly what this internet thing was or how would it work. So a moratorium was put in on duties, just like you have import duties on items coming into a country. They put a moratorium that all WTO members would not charge any duties on electronic transactions. However, as e-commerce, for example, has exploded and exploded again because of COVID, countries that were short because of economic activity being decreased, but e-commerce increasing, short on tax revenue, started to look at it. And even before that, some countries started to put in um, electronic transaction taxes, or I guess cross-border e-commerce type taxes. And a few countries did it, and then it started to multiply. Um, Now the moratorium is still in place, but it's set to expire December 31st, 2023. It's been extended several times, and there is somewhat of a mood in the WTO of not extending it. Some people want it to be extended because they still don't know exactly what is to replace it. And they want to have a comprehensive, overall, universal agreement, I guess, governing this space. Now, it's important because how you define electronic transactions or electronic transmissions, to be more precise. You know, the sending or clicking that button to say yes, to your Amazon purchase, that, you say yes, that is. But what about making a phone call over um the internet, which many call centers do these days? Are those considered electronic transmissions or transactions? Perhaps. So the definition of what that means has to be clear, because it will impact call center, BPO, business process outsourcing type of industries, which a lot of them are clustered in zones in a lot of countries. So, this is an area that has kind of gone under the radar, but I guess I would suspect in the latter part of 2023, when we start getting down to the wire of the expiry, you're going to hear a lot more of it. But, it's something to watch out for, because it's one of those ones that can really sneak up on you, because, if the moratorium expires without a treaty or some agreement being put in place, it frees individual nations to then start to act. And, all of a sudden, you're going to have a patchwork, potentially a patchwork mechanism or patchwork type of structure all over the country without, universally applied or understood rules, which is not never a good thing. So if you like this episode, please like, subscribe, share. If you wanted to see me do a specific episode in 2023, just leave me a comment down below and I'll get right back to you.